Strap on your VR headset because we're about to transport you into the captivating world of Ghosts of Tabor. Welcome to Tabor Radio. Hey, welcome to this episode of Tabor Radio. This is episode 4, and we have one that, a guest here that I think that might even be a little overdue, even only being 4 episodes in. We're talking with Fish, somebody that's extremely hyped in the Tabor community.
Very well-known individual.
Yes, he goes by Fish in the Discord, and, you'll hear, the Church of Fish and everything, but his real name is Jonas, so since we're getting to know the man himself, you might hear us call him Jonas. So, Jonas, do you mind to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role at Combat Waffle Studios?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jonas, InFish, and I'm the CTO, Chief Technology Officer at Combat Waffle Studios. So I do all the big technology decisions. I don't do a lot of programming anymore, but we have a lot of other awesome people to do that.
So when you say anymore, you were in the trenches previously?
I was, yes. When we started this, a year and a half ago, I was in the trenches. I was doing a lot of programming. I had to learn a lot of Unreal Engine things because I don't have a game development background. So yes, I was deep in everything.
So,
well, that's an easy lead into wondering what you were doing before becoming a developer then, if you didn't have a developer background.
I do have a developer background, but not a game developer.
Okay.
So I did a lot of other software, a lot of website stuff, a lot of services running behind that, but not game specifically.
Understood. And then, how did you discover, Scott, Combat Waffle Studios, Tabor, how did you transition into that?
Yeah, that goes back a bit. So before Combat Waffle Studios was founded, I was part of an esports league called The Leftovers, and dabbling a bit in some Pavlov and other VR shooters. And Scott, he came kind of out of nowhere. Suddenly decided, hey, he wants to make an esports league, a new one, VREL. And he got me on board on that project, which it's still running today, but we worked on it for quite a bit. And then suddenly he was like, hey, that Tarkov game, we've all played it a ton. How about that in VR? That's kind of how it started.
You were pretty sold just off of that description of Tarkov in VR. That was enough to get you in.
Yeah, that was, well, it was a good idea. And when he dabbled with the idea for quite a bit, right? You need financing, you need to find the right people to work on the game and so on. And when he initially decided this is what he wanted to do, he asked, if I wanted to be on board, and my first answer was no. Yeah.
How long did it take you to switch over to a yes?
I think it took about a month, maybe 2. I was already in the progress of deciding with my current job that I wanted to travel some more while doing remote work, because this was all after COVID. A lot of software was going remote at that time, and I had all these plans already lined up. So I was not really looking for a new job. Was not really in the books.
So
at some point something had to switch, though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, was it Scott being very convincing, or was it you wanting a new challenge in your career, or?
It was basically deciding to take a risk, because I had a stable job, back in Denmark, where I'm from. I could do it remotely while traveling. It was all, I wouldn't say boring, but like standard, 9 to 5.
It was safe.
It was safe, right? It was safe. And now I had this opportunity coming my way where nothing's safe, right? It's a startup. It's based in the US. It's in VR. That's a small thing. It was a lot of risk, but in the end, I kind of went like the logic behind it was actually quite simple. This is probably not going to come around again ever. So if I'm gonna say F it and do something risky, might as well do it now.
I don't think there's a better game that you could have chose to make that jump with than
Oh
Ghosts
Well,
of
that
yeah,
Tabor.
because I mean, some say risk. I see opportunity when
Yeah.
those things pass by in life. Regardless, I think that's just how my brain is
Mhm.
wired. That I don't see it as a risk. I see it as like there's an opportunity in front of you. Did you? I mean, it's no secret. Ghost of Tabor is blown up tenfold. I, I don't think anybody. I mean, we knew from the first time we played it that there's something magical to this. There's something huge to this, and every time you read an announcement on the Discord, you realize it's even getting bigger and bigger. Did you, uh, hearing like conceptually what it was going to be, did you expect the reaction from, we'll say, the consumer to be as strong as it's been?
I did not. So I knew that I've been following Tarkov a very long time. I knew that they had an initial game before Escape from Tarkov. I knew that Tarkov itself I think it took about 4 years before it entered, public testing phase. And that they've been working on that game for about a decade now. So when Scott said we have to make this and we have to make it in a year, I was like, okay, so the success criteria here is that we get a game out there that is just good enough that we can survive. And then the success of the game is going to happen in year 2, year 3, year 4, like way down the road. Um, we did not expect, I don't think any of us expected what happened, on the first month when we launched it.
Oh
It's-
no, the feedback from the first time we got it in our hands to play was over. You just knew.
yeah, you
It's like
said it
this
right
is
away.
yeah,
First play session, you were like, this game is magical.
yep.
And when you had, finally committed to going on, was the game still, on a whiteboard and conceptual? What stage was the game in when you jumped in?
I jumped into the company when it was founded from day one, but I didn't start technically until the first month because, Europe and you have a long time when you quit a job before you can start the next one and so on. But I was on board from the very start.
That's awesome. So you've really seen this thing go from conception, idea, to rough stages, to people getting their hands on it, to Discord community blowing up, and now you got, your weekly top 10 videos, your community videos, you have the podcast, the Ghost of Tabor is one of the top games in VR. It's nominated for Game of the Year, and it's still in beta,
Yeah,
early access
that's
on
I don't
App
think
Lab.
that's ever. I can't think of a game that's ever been in beta and gets nominated for Game of the Year.
No, I've never heard of it. I mean, it's one of the most popular games this year, and it's on App Lab. It's insane. Wait till it's on the official store. So you kind of referenced that you were, following Tarkov prior. Was that always the style of game that you liked? Those extraction based survival shooters.
Yeah, no, I've really liked Tarkov for a very long time. I have way too many hours in that game. Played it since 2016 or something like that. I've also quit it quite a few times because that kind of comes with the territory. You rage quit, you crash too many times or too many teeters or other kinds of issues. You wait half a year and then you come back, and that's kind of the magic of having these wipes. You can get tired of the game and then you can start fresh with everybody else, next summer or next winter, whatever. And you'll get some new content too in the same time.
So I'm guessing as a fan of Tarkov and, experiencing the other side of, the consumer frustrations when there's a bug or a hack or, people are cheating, when you're working on Tabor and you're overseeing stuff or whatever, does that lead you to holding stuff to a very high standard because you know what it's like from the consumer side?
I wish. I'd love to say that, that we'll do way more QA testing and hold everything to a super high standard, but reality is that we're trying to make a lot of content in a very fast time, And even though we have grown a lot as a studio, we have a lot more people now, including, also media and developers and all sorts of different roles. But it's you can't keep testing it forever, right? Like at some point we have to say we need to push the content. We can say it's beta. Some people are gonna hate it, some people are gonna love it, but in the end we have a lot of maps we want to make, we have a lot of guns we want to put in there, a lot of features we want to make, and we want a lot of those features in the game early before we start expanding a lot on them, right? We would rather have, a couple bunker upgrades now, and then we'll make more in the future. We'll have a couple maps now, we'll make more in the future, but we need all that core stuff in there before we can kind of go and say, hey, now the game is like version 1.0, it's done. And then we'll make version 1.1. We'll add another map. We'll do more, but we need all those core features in there, and we don't have that yet. So we'll push some stuff a bit early.
Well, and we definitely saw some of the features get teased, I'll say, in videos with the weight management system that we had heard was coming, which was a real kick in the balls. And then we've heard of like handfuls of other features coming from, having to care for your gun, or it's going to jam on you
or even just there being fees in the kiosk for storing your stuff.
Yeah.
This game is getting
that was another kick in the gut,
but in all the good ways, so for yourself, it sounds like that you've been a gamer pretty much your whole life. That's kind of the impression I get. And was it always shooters, or was there other genres that you liked, or were you always the competitive?
I've always liked shooters. Another game genre I like a lot is like RTS, real time. So I was thinking, like Command and Conquer,
Civilization.
Yep, for sure. Not a big StarCraft fan, but the concept is kind of the same up there,
Yeah, it's a running joke to myself that I think I say to every single person we talk to. Civilization in VR.
Command and Conquer was the best back in the.
Yeah, that's some of the first games I ever played on the computer. Red Alert. Great.
I still have Red Alert 3 on Steam.
Great game. So, At what point did you discover VR and start playing, virtual reality?
That's a good question. I think it's about 2016. I discovered VR from Beat Saber, not Beat Saber launch, but like YouTube videos of what Beat Saber would be from the creator. And I decided, you know what, Beat Saber, that's what I'm gonna buy it for. Then I bought a Vive, HTC Vive initially, and then because Beat Saber hasn't launched yet, I decided to start playing Pavlov. So that's kind of how I got started.
And what headset was that? In case I
think it
missed
was an HTC Vive.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I think you said it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Beat Saber gets so many people into VR, but
it was one of the early ones I bought when I got my Quest 2. I'm like, I just want to see what it's all about, and I still play it.
And at what point did you start? How long did it take you owning a headset before you went into the competitive, esports league side of things?
I don't really remember. It must have been a year or two. And I wasn't in it for very long. I had a couple, I don't know, six months or so, maybe a year playing competitive Pavlov, and that was kind of about it. Not a lot.
Makes sense. And these days, what headset are you playing on?
I'm on a Quest 2 for now. That'll get changed out to a Quest 3 when I get some stable ground sometime and I swap it out. But I'm on Quest.
Yeah, you're floating around a bit, so it must be not always the easiest to grab a retail one, just floating a bit.
Well, and that's the convenience of the Quest is like you take it with you no matter where you go. You don't have to haul a desktop.
Okay, so that's it.
Yeah.
So it's very easy.
So you're a big fan of standalone VR for that reason, or do you still prefer if you were stable to play PC VR?
I prefer no cables. I don't know if it was the right decision. So I went from a Vive to an Index, which was a great upgrade. Then I went from an Index to a Quest 1. And a lot of people would not agree with that decision. But for me at the time, I didn't really have like, a lot of people, they have these cable management systems hanging from the ceiling that makes it a lot easier to play with Index. But I was like, you know what? The freedom of that Quest 1, it was a downgrade, but it was worth it for me at that time. And then obviously the Quest 2 was, big step in the right direction.
And you don't own one yet, but have you tried Quest 3 at any point yet?
I have not tried it, but I'm hearing and seeing a lot of good stuff about it.
Yeah, I'm so far,
I'm liking mine.
the default head trap not the best, but the
Oh,
performance
that's
of it,
always been the case.
correct. And you can switch
Always,
it
right?
out, get a new
Yeah.
third party. The actual headset itself is a beast. And I love to hear, because we're Quest users as well. So I love to hear, the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer, he's a Quest standalone user as well. I think catering to both player bases, the standalone player base, making sure everything's working good for them. And that's huge numbers. And then, of course, you always got to take care of the hardcore users on the PC VR. So, yes, I'm very relieved to hear that you're playing on a Quest, to say the least.
I'm relieved that Ghosts of Tabor is even on the
Mhm.
Quest. So that in itself, when it first, I'll say first came out, for the ability to get it on Quest was amazing in itself. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know how this thing.
And the graphics have improved. The character models have
Dude,
improved.
everything's improved. It's
So,
not even funny.
Again, wait till the
It's
whole
one of the most aggressive studios on Earth. I mean, and I've seen so many people that like threw a little hate to like some bugs or some issues that were existing, and then they're reminded that this thing came out in like a year, and they're like immediately flip attitude, because it's like you shouldn't be playing something this well in like a year and a half.
So something I got to kind of switch gears with quick, because we're getting ahead of ourselves. And I think that we should maybe go back a bit before I completely forget. We've called you Jonas, but to the community, you're Fish. How did the name Fish come to be?
Random name generator.
Random name generator? How long ago
Yeah.
was that? Was that like when you first started gaming, or?
Oh, that goes back, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years. I'm not entirely sure.
So that's old school for you. So you just carried it over when you made a Discord and started in Tabor and everything?
Yeah. I basically, I had an old name. I needed a new one, and I couldn't come up with anything. So I found, random name generator, and then you just keep clicking. Don't like that one? Get a new one. Get 100 ones, and then that InFish one just was like, hey, that's okay. That works.
Well, it's definitely stuck with the community. You see, the Church of Fish, and
It
you got
destroyed my vision of what I thought like where the name came. I'm like, oh man, this guy's probably like wicked good at either swimming or
fishing.
Nope.
fishing. Got the big boat.
So yeah, there's the Church of Fish. There's even a picture of you in the church. So was this something that the community just started as kind of an internal meme and ran crazy with? How did this whole Church of Fish stuff start?
Yes. That was one of the Discord users in there started the church. I didn't start it. I was just the subject, and they kind of just ran with it. Then it got a Discord channel, it got a role, kept increasing. They started making memes. Then you got those emotes now with the praying, and at some point, I think someone told Sebastian, our environment artist, to say, we need an actual church on the island, and it's just we're kind of going with it as we see.
Yeah, rolling with the punches. That's all.
We're rolling with it. Yeah.
It's a good little like meme, good little joke. It's very funny.
Little Easter egg, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
People having fun,
Mhm.
might as well.
And with the size of the Discord, which again
Only grows.
I think Scott was saying like 1,000 a week at this point. Jump in, so they're over 60K.
Ridiculous.
It is spooky active.
Mm-hmm. The community is a big part of why Tabor is what it is. It's
and for that many users, I mean, I'll say it's not
really toxic.
No,
you guys do a great job moderating it, keeping things Tabor, keeping things civil as much as you can with 60K hardcore fans and
I love
passionate.
the repeat questions though all the time that come out.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same freaking question, and it gets answered, and then you'll see it again from the same
Mhm.
person. It cracks me up.
So my next question, a little subjective, but it's always funny. We talk with a lot of developers on our other podcast, Rough Talk VR, and they're not always the best players at their own game. Sometimes the
Mhm.
community surpasses them quite fast. So for yourself, would you consider yourself, quote unquote, a good player? Can you hold your own in a run, or at this point, does the community just lawnmower?
Well, a lot of the community is young children, so I wouldn't say it's too difficult, at least for me to play around and do pretty well in the game. But I also don't have I don't play a lot of the game because I spend so much time on the actual, the company and the development on the game. So when I do play, I go in, I have some rounds, have some fun, play some silo. You can do a lot of silo runs fairly quickly. But that also means that I don't, keep up with whatever the meta is. Like I'm sure the community has a meta, shotgun to the legs is a classic Tarkov one. So I'm sure if and when I meet, the good players in the game, I'm no match. That's for sure.
And what's a good run to you? Are you somebody who likes to go in and it's all about the loot, leaving with a backpack full is number one priority, or do you go in
S-
looking for blood, looking for kills?
Surviving. It
Hmm.
it is a survival game. It may not appear so for a lot of people. They want to get in there, get 5 kills. But if you die after those 5 kills, you've lost, right?
Yeah.
You lost your gear. You have a nice end screen that says, you got 5 kills. Good on you. But in the end, you lost money, you lost progress, you get less XP for dying compared to surviving. Like the number one thing is surviving. And that is going to be more pronounced as we keep progressing with the game.
Yeah, that's my style too.
I've been getting smoked a lot. I mean, I'll admit it. My style for the longest is I want the loot and I
Mhm.
want to get the hell out. Even to the point of like I'm at full disclosure, if the first crate I go to has something amazing in it,
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm
Peace.
Get
I'm
out.
running to the exit and I'm like, we can go back in. I
Yeah.
just got to put this on my shelf.
Yeah, I'm a loot guy. If I can
Hmm.
get kills, obviously I'm happy. Hey, there's usually
We've
good
hunted a
loot.
few times.
Yeah, you'll stalk somebody here and there, and sometimes they have good loot too. But I agree. I'm all about staying alive, making it to the extraction with more than I came in with. That's a good run to me. And do you have a go-to loadout where you're joking? The community probably has a meta, but for yourself, do you have a go-to?
Not really. It's kind of depending on what's in the bunker. I like to use the stuff that I have because you might have noticed it takes, unless you favorite everything, it takes a while to gear up, right? You have to change the map, you have to go scan stuff and buy from multiple traders. You always need a backpack. You might need some armor, the guns, the ammunition, the pouches, everything. So it's just, I like to have my loadout like pre-configured in the bunker. So whatever I have on my mannequin, I can just take it on and it'll already have pouches and it'll already have magazines in there. So I might have, an M4 preloaded kit and then I'll have a MP5 preloaded kit and so on. So I can just run with it.
Oh, that's one area that when I started playing, I didn't take advantage of enough. But now, yeah, if you go into my bunker, you'll see I only have one mannequin set up, but I'm trying to be very organized with.
Yep, makes it quick to go. And
Yeah, because I mean, you're right. Me and this guy can spend 10 minutes in our bunkers just farting around with shit.
And
So
how often have you heard us one of us go, "Oh crap, I got to run to the market real
I'll be
quick."
right back. I'm going shopping. And then, buying one thing, it's like a real store. Are you really going to buy one thing? No,
Mhm.
if you got the money.
So you mentioned you don't always have the most amount of time to hop in the game with the amount that you're working on it, behind the scenes. Is that true for all of your gaming in general? Or are you still playing other VR games, other flat screen games?
I mostly play flat screen these days. Not because VR ain't fun, but it's a lot more effort. So once everything's done, you've made your dinner, done your work, like you want to sit down, relax a bit. It's a lot more effort to, strap on a VR headset, boot up, run around physically, and so on, compared to, let's say, booting up a casual game of Counter-Strike. right? So it's kind of like it's very common, I think, if you ask people that they've had a hobby, right? And then that hobby becomes their work, it kind of stops being a hobby because they're doing it, 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, especially as the CTO, I mean, like you
Yeah.
said, the community's grown a lot, but also the team's grown a lot. And
Dude, an average day in the life of Jonas must be insane.
yeah, I mean, are you able to say, how big the team is at this point?
I don't know. 30 plus, 33, 34. I'm not entirely sure, but it's growing.
Yeah, and well, it's important to say Combat Waffle Studios, they don't only have one other game or one game in the works. You got Grim, you got Silent North. So are you involved in those games, overseeing them too, making sure everything's good, or are you all focused on Tabor?
Right now, I'm multiple. Grim, is I will be involved in at some point, but for now, Grim is kind of the child of Spoonfed. He's been working on this game for I think 5 years or so. So if he needs help or when he needs help with some of the more bigger things down the line as we want to launch the game, I'll be there. Until then, he's kind of just running with it, and we'll support with whatever he needs the support for. And Silent North is a bit further, down the road in terms of we need to actually develop a new game from scratch again.
Well, I think
So
that's
for
going to be
yeah,
a big relief for some of the fans. A lot of the community, they've heard it. It's different teams that are dedicated for each game. You're not taking people from Tabor to go work on the others, but it's always good to hear, especially from somebody high up, hey, no, Tabor is still my focus. And, we referenced some more hardcore features coming, like weight, like,
Gun repairs,
gun repairs, the kiosk storage fees.
rent,
And then there's also stuff,
utilities. You need. I mean, when they added gasoline,
yeah.
I was like, okay, I respect. Remember when Scott said it too? My jaw dropped. I'm like, what? We're gonna have to like fuel our own lighting now for our bunker? Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
So how hardcore do you anticipate this game getting? It sounds the vision I get is that you guys want it as true to life as possible. But what's the end goal with these hardcore features getting added?
well, the thing is, it's not necessarily getting added because it's hardcore, right? We want to add stuff for people to do. So when we add the generator in the bunker and we add this gasoline for people to fill up, and from the user you might go, oh, now I need to fill it up, I need to turn it on and off. If I want to save on it, I need to spend Karunas on it and so on. But that's not actually the purpose. The purpose is that we want to have a lot of rooms in the bunker with utilities that you can unlock, you can upgrade. We want to have it so that you have new content coming every couple player levels. You reach player level 3, now you can open this door. You reach player level 6, now you can get access to this utility. You reach player level 9, now you can upgrade this utility. And all of these different things are going to rely on the other rooms, like the generator, right? Like you need power to use this utility, or you need water to do this. So it's the generator is not there to annoy people. It just came first, right? It was the first thing we added, but it's going to be required for the other stuff we want to add.
No, makes total sense.
Yeah, and I love those features. It's like
Oh, dude, I'm a sucker for unlockables.
it's what makes Tabor special. You have the mag palming, it's so real, and none of these features that are getting added, I use the word real, and it's because it's all stuff that would happen in real
In real
life.
life, yeah.
Yeah, you're not going any out of the blue. You're not doing stuff just to make people's life difficult. It's like, no, this is more realistic now. And previously you had mentioned, that, Silo's good for going in for a couple quick runs and everything. Is that your favorite map, or is it hard for you to pick a favorite?
Well, as I play on Quest Standalone, I do prefer Silo. We know there's a lot of improvements to be made on Island, and depending on how many people you have in there, if they're all concentrated around the lab building and so on, like you're gonna have some frame issues. Um, it's just a consequence of things, and of course we'll keep optimizing on it. But if you just want to have like a smooth experience, you get in there, it's not lagging too much, and everything's just kind of running. Silo is my go-to for that.
And
I'm an island guy.
yeah, we say it all the time.
Oh, my.
I love the island. But do you go in solo or do you go in with a
It's
group?
all solo.
Wow.
All solo.
Okay.
And I've done the same thing in Tarkov. It's I don't like when I have time to play the game, I don't want to sit and wait and coordinate with other people, and not even to mention when you actually get in the game. When you play solo, you know that every single person you see or hear, you can shoot on sight. When you have people, you now need to coordinate. You don't have time to check for those little blue dots all over their armor, right? Like you need to know, is that a friend or is it someone to shoot?
Yeah, we've killed each other. I think everybody has, especially when you first start
Everybody
playing,
has.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to this day, people will still post about.
But I'll
It
say
happens.
playing solo is an entirely different game to me.
Oh, it gets the adrenaline pumping.
Yeah, my heart's beating. I feel like I am being hunted versus when I'm in a group.
Sometimes you are.
Well, not sometimes. I always assume like if it's too quiet, especially on island, probably somebody can see me right now. They're just not making it known. But sometimes in a group, I feel a little bit more like I'm doing the hunting. So yeah, that takes, in my opinion, some balls to go in. Prefer the solo runs. One mistake and you're dead.
Do you do naked runs at all? Just
No.
going with no.
No, I don't like the idea. Unless you're, I can see it from the perspective of a content creator. You want to do like a hardcore version of the game, or you want to do a 0 to hero kind of thing. I totally see the idea in that, but for the general player, naked runs shouldn't be possible, and we will continue to kind of nudge the game in a direction where that does not make any sense to do.
So, you're a gamer fan. You're a fan of Tarkov. There's a direction that it sounds like you want to see Tabor go. What are some things or changes, features, additions that, aren't yet in the game that you would like to see added to get the game more, the vision that you guys all think it should be?
Sure. If we're talking about the naked runs, we'll have a bunch of that coming up in maybe next patch, maybe next wipe, but stuff like the bleeding system. If you can bleed and you need medical equipment to stop bleeding, doing a naked run is now more dangerous, right? You get shot once, you start bleeding, now you have even less time to get out. We'll have stuff like a lot of the reasons some people go in naked, they don't have a lot of gear, right? They're poor. I'm not saying they're bad at the game, but they're poor. Insurance is going to help with that. So when you buy stuff from the marketplace and you insure your gear, in general, people are now going to have more gear come back to them, which means more gear in their bunker. And it's kind of feedback loop, right? If you have more gear, you're kind of more inclined to use the stuff you have. So we don't want to punish people for going in naked. We want to encourage them through other game mechanics to not do it.
An insurance system. Dude.
Yeah. So how's that work? Is the idea that just that like you would pay like double the cost of the weapon or something like that, or is it like a monthly, like a time based?
So it's pretty much like if you're going down to your local Apple store and you're buying an iPhone. You want to pay another 25% for insurance. Kind of how it works. So when you buy the items at the marketplace traders, you'll have a checkbox. You can decide you want to insure all the items, some of the items. You'll pay a little upcharge, and then you can lose that item once.
And then it comes back into what, your kiosk?
It comes back to your kiosk, assuming that nobody else extracted with that item.
So that's a good little. So
you have to check it, right? You have to go like cost risk analysis. What is the chance somebody else is going to take this item? Is it a high value item?
Screw that. I know I'm going to die. I'm tossing it out a window.
Do it.
Nobody get it.
If you have the time to do that, you're guaranteed a return once.
Oh my goodness.
I think it's brilliant.
That adds a whole new element to the game. And it sounds like you can insure
They're going to get all my money though, because I'm going to insure almost everything I buy.
So
Why
the
wouldn't
idea is
you?
that you could theoretically insure every single item you buy, including water bottles, etc.
Yes.
Game changer, absolute
Well,
game changer.
everything they do is a game changer.
And what if, yeah, I didn't expect it to
Literally.
go that in depth of if somebody extracts with it, then, hey,
No,
you're
and I
SOL.
every time we talk to someone from Combat Waffle, I hear something I wasn't 100% on, and then you just know this. There's so much stuff we don't even know about that,
Just
of
in the,
course, nobody can talk about. And it's already freaking big. It's big, but we know of bigger maps coming, and we know of
more
mechanical
features.
functions coming that are just gonna. I really can't wait for the gun modifications and gun repairs. and
Yeah.
that one I'm really excited about.
You're gonna have to wait for that one.
Nope, I'm patient.
Yeah. I mean, I'd take
I got
everything.
nothing but time.
And with the medical stuff, we've seen other games, you're hurt, you take the bandage, you wrap it around your arm, and then you're healed, or you stop bleeding, or whatever. Is that the idea to do it like that, kind of Green Hell-esque, or do you want something a little bit
Yeah,
more sophisticated?
we've discussed doing more complicated stuff, like if you get shot in the leg, you have to manually, wrap your leg and having individual body part. Thing is, right, it's VR. There are limits to what you can do within reason, and it's not a simulator. It is a game, right? So we do cut corners in places where we think for the sake of keeping it a game and not a simulator, we kind of have to gamify some things. And that does go for the medical system. So it's you might have noticed in a previous patch we changed it from we have like full body and hands only to it's full body and hands and arms. And the reason those arms had to come into that mode is because we're going to utilize those arms for this medical system. So you're going to have access to a body part where you can interact with and, apply stuff.
It's huge. And,
I wouldn't be surprised if you'll have to heal your buddy at some point. Like you won't be able to heal yourself because you're
You
wounded.
can heal yourself.
All right. So it'll always be a heal yourself situation.
This game
I think so.
is going to be incredible. And without putting anything in concrete, do you have a timeline of when you would like to see these features added to the game, within a year or something like that?
I would like to see most of the core features added in like the next 6 months.
Wow.
We
How,
have a lot.
unsurprising.
We have a lot coming over the next month or so. We're preparing more content. We've done a lot of hot fixes in, I don't know, it's been a while, right? Bug fixes here, bug fixes there. We haven't really released a lot of content for a very long time, and that is because we're working on it in batches, right? We don't want to give you one new item and then that's an update. We kind of do that for the bug fixes if they fix a big crash or something, but for the content we're kind of bundling it together and then we'll drop a big patch with it.
I have nothing to complain about because aside from bug fix updates, which again, Combat Waffle's very aggressive with jumping on, and amazing again that we're still playing it to this day on a standalone headset.
And it's only gotten better. I mean, I remember the game, we used to have crashes and frame rate drops when it first came out on the Quest and we first started playing. And, knock on wood, I've had no crashes. My experience has been very smooth.
The graphics have always, so every major update that's come along has been just that. It's like fantastic stuff coming.
And are you able to talk about a little, what the content that you're looking to release in the next month is?
I'm sure Scott has already talked a lot about it, right? We had an AMA here not too long ago as well, where he's talking about it. We got another map coming. At least let's say in next month that's when we're gonna have another wipe, roughly. That'll come. We're gonna have a new map. We're gonna have bunker upgrades. We're gonna have some character customizations. I think we're finally gonna get that John Wick DLC out there. There's a lot coming.
I can't wait.
I just the servers are gonna take a pounding when the upgrade comes.
Well,
because the player base for this is just, I mean, it
keeps growing.
Yeah.
And what's the new map going to be? Is it a continuation of one of the existing ones, or is it an entirely new map?
No, it's a Matka Miest. It's the city one, or it's half. It's a part of Matka Miest. They're still working on the other part. It'll be kind of like Island, we'll do a part now and then we'll do another part later.
Yeah, I remember when we had interviewed Scott, he was, a couple months ago, he was hyping that one up, and he was, smiling cheekbone to cheekbone in anticipation, talking about it. He said that map is
Yeah.
going to be pretty sweet. And what's the player count that's going to be on that map for the half one?
On the first version here, it'll be 6 players. But one of the things that's so special about this map is that this is the first map that is truly built from the ground up by our own artists, right? So all the meshes you see, they're made in-house, they're optimized for VR. All the textures you see, they're like made by the artist. Where Ireland was the map itself was made by us, but a lot of the props in there, a lot of the buildings, they were initially just placed marketplace assets, and that comes with so many issues when you're trying to run a highly optimized game for VR. I had the same issues with Silo, which Scott he made initially himself. So it's just like this is the first map that is like really built from the ground up by the in-house artist, and it shows. It really shows. It's beautiful.
When I'm getting the feeling from what you said that building it from ground up also alleviates any possibilities of bugs you can get. I never knew that was like a programming thing. So
Yeah,
that's
using
kinda cool.
assets would cause more of a headache. So from a technical standpoint, you referenced it quick. It's made it a much easier process in that regard too.
It's not easier. It's a lot harder, actually. It's a lot more difficult because they have to design everything, right? Where it's very easy to buy an asset from the marketplace and place in your map. But if the performance is poor, then you kind of have an issue. So it's a very difficult process. It's a process that takes a very long time, but which is why we're seeing, maps getting delayed and so on. But the final result is really, really nice.
So going forward, that's going to be the direction the studio takes, at all
Yeah.
in-house like that.
It will, and that is why we have, people always say, "Oh, we're like 30 developers." Well, not really, because we have a lot of people not programming anything, right? A lot of this is artists, right? We have 3D modelists, we have environment artists, we have lighting artists, and they do all this stuff because the map is a very big part of the game. It's not all, writing ones and zeros, game programming. It's a really big part of it.
Yeah, I would say, you can't say it enough. Every person in the team, their role makes a big difference. And exactly as you said, as important as the game is to function, it has to look appropriate for the setting and the style that you're going for. So, yeah, every person definitely plays a big role in that. So, for new players or players that are going in and dying in the first 5 minutes every round,
You will.
yes, especially if you're new.
You will.
Yeah.
But that's how you learn. But do you have any
Growth.
tips for these people that are struggling a bit?
That's a good one. I mean, we've kind of tried to make this game a little less hardcore than Tarkov that we're taking inspiration from, right? We have a compass. We're actually going to show you where you don't need your phone open with an online map, Um, but like tips that they have to like the number one step is you have to survive, right? That is and this might be one of the cases where, at least in the current version of the game, doing naked runs would actually be beneficial because you're kind of learning the map. You can run around. You won't be able to do that forever. Maybe in the future the alternative solution is to run training maps. It's kind of boring. It kind of sucks. You don't get to save anything. Like you get none of this, all this progression that we have in the game. That is a core part of the game, is progressing. But for learning the game, the training is really helpful. Still get to play against AI, you get to learn the maps, you get to learn where all the loot boxes are and so on. That's probably, like, if you keep dying, that's probably where I would start.
No, I think giving the tip of enforcing that the idea is to survive is big. You don't need to be Barney Badass going into every gunfight in the middle of the open. You're gonna get picked off somewhere else.
Yeah.
Always be aware of your surroundings. Make sure that you're not in the wide open. If you're in the wide open,
Keep your mouth
Right.
shut.
Yeah, that's a
Don't be
good
singing
point.
and whistling, and we've run into people singing songs. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, keep singing.
Yep. Watching TV
Like,
or
not a
something. It's
care
like,
in the world.
you're going to die. Gonna die, my man. That's the way it goes. So, you know,
Like if you can extract with enough loot in your backpack to cover the cost of that ammunition you spend, it's a success.
yeah, I think
If
that's,
you don't lose stuff, you're good. You can always do another one.
I love to ask it because it seems like everybody has different philosophies with playing the game, but I'm with you. It's the idea is make it from point A to point B with more loot than I came in with. And that's anything else that happens.
Was it Souls whose advice was shoot on sight?
Yeah, he's like,
It's
trust
best-
nobody.
Trust nobody.
Yeah,
Kill
shoot
on sight.
Yeah, and that's definitely happened. I've popped you a couple times. You know, we've said it happens to everyone. And kind of on a different note, do you have any advice for people looking to get in the VR industry as a developer or just professionally?
I have no clue. I came into the industry by accident. I don't know how any of this works. We're figuring it out as we go. So I wouldn't know.
Here, I'll throw you a disclaimer answer. It would be, in your case, take advantage of the opportunities when they're in front of you and recognize when it might not come around again, which seems to be your story we heard earlier. You took the
Yeah.
risk. I'll say you took the opportunity.
It looks like it's paying off.
And yeah, I mean, it's like scratching a lottery ticket and seeing all winners. It's like you're part of a team that's already nominated for Game of the Year.
In early access. I
In
can't
early
stress that enough.
access. Other games coming down the pipeline that I truly believe, you know, on a personal note, Grim is going to be equally successful to Ghosts of Tabor. It's going to be a humongous player. So it's like the studio is gone from like, who's Combat Waffle to,
You better know who Combat
you better
Waffle
be
is.
paying attention to what they're doing. And openly, everyone seems to give really good advice to other studios as well, of like how you can somewhat you need to have a good product, of course, but that whole marketing aspect of getting the word out to the masses that you do have a good product. It's an area that they have just crushed on the scene.
The marketing's on point, the community engagement's on point, but most importantly, the game itself is on point. So referencing progression and stuff like that, you know, character levels are a part of the game. Are we going to see more with the character levels, you know, through more updates in terms of like in-depthness and stuff like that?
The character level is going to be an integrated part of the upgrades. So every upgrade, so the way it works right now is you spawn in the game, you spawn in your bunker, you'll already have a lot of these rooms unlocked. We did that for this wipe, we did it for the previous wipe. For next wipe, that's not going to be the case. So next wipe, you're going to spawn into a bunker that has the rooms unlocked according to your actual edition of the game. That's going to be enabled next wipe. And so in order to unlock these rooms and upgrade these utilities, some of which are done, some of which are not yet done, you will have requirements. So you'll have player level requirements. You'll have to pay for the items or the upgrades themselves. You might have trader level requirements that'll force you to upgrade some of the traders you don't really care about right now. There might be item delivery requirements that you need to, in order to upgrade the, the nursery, you have to, find some planks of wood or whatever. Like that, there'll be things you need to do, including the player level itself.
That's huge. You know, that's huge, especially, you know, trader requirements. You can't just focus on the one you want. That's how all skill trees and progression
let's be
goes.
honest,
Right.
we all probably do only focus on the ones we want.
So that forces some, hey, in order to keep focusing on him, you got to go to him first. Damn it.
Assuming you want those rooms, of course. If you don't care about the rooms, then you can still skip those traders. But we're going to put a more emphasis on broadly leveling up the traders across the board.
That's huge.
Well, and if you're a completionist, there's no way you're going to have something. I mean, I know it would bug the hell out of me.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's me. And you referenced that they're tied in a little bit to your edition of the game. So like people with the Founding Fathers edition, they're gonna have some more of the doors opened up than somebody with just the base game.
Right. Yeah. So the different edition of the game, I think they have a couple rooms that get unlocked immediately depending on the edition. Just like they have, they start with different amount of Karunas. They have a little bit more gear. Um, I don't remember the exact details. That's on the pages.
Understood.
I bought it.
Yeah, me too.
I was no idiot.
Yeah, when I saw the limited time, when we first got the game, I was like, oh yeah, I'm sold. That's an easy way to get me. And I've even seen people asking it, and I know you guys have all said it 100 times, and the question still comes up. It's like, yes, post wipe, your DLC stuff doesn't go away. Your DLC stuff comes back
Right.
after wipes. It's always good to get on record endlessly because there will be
Yeah,
new players come
I
in.
see it get at. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do I lose everything?
because tomorrow somebody's going to buy Ghosts of Tabor and then get the DLC. And even though it's been said 100 times, it's still new to them. So yes, if don't hold off on DLCs just because a wipe's coming, you don't lose your DLC with wipes. And also wipes will be an integral part of the game. You referenced for yourself as a fan of Tarkov, though that aspect actually made you able to get back in because you always knew, all right.
It's a brand new start.
So, kind of going to that for you, working in the studio, making sure that wipes are part of the game. That's a big thing to you.
It is because you have this game where you have a lot of VR games that are kind of the same, right? They're stateless. So you join a server, you play your 5v5 shooter, or you go in there, you do a race in some game or whatever. When you leave that server, everything's back to zero, right? You lost everything, which means that you can play the same game over and over again, which is great. But when you have a game like this with progression, which is kind of what makes, other than sure it's a hardcore shooter and so on, progression is kind of what makes Tabor and Tarkov in flat screen. It's what makes it special in terms of shooter games, the shooter genre. And when you have all this progression, when you start as a new player, you are now up against players who have progressed a lot, right? If you start as a new player tomorrow, we're what are we, 3 months ish into the current season, you're gonna be up against players with maxed out traders. They're gonna have M4. They're gonna have AK alphas. They'll have AP ammo in them. Like you're fucked, right? and you just start the game. You have your starter gear. You have no chance, right? Like, well, of course you have a chance, but it's so much more difficult. But when you have the wipe, everyone's back to zero, or at least they're not back to zero. They're back to the edition that they have, right? Anything beyond that is reset. And so if you want to get into the game, or you have been into the game and you want to get back into the game again, doing it around a wipe, a little bit before, a little bit after, is a really good time to do it.
I agree.
I'm not hurt with wipes.
No, and
I think initially I was like, this is gonna suck. But then I started understanding the value of basically a reset for everybody. Everybody's back to the same playing field. No one's got the advantage.
for me, that's my remedy to gear fear as well. It's like it's kind of hard to be scared to lose something.
Dude, I still have gear fear.
When I'm guaranteed I'm going to lose it anyway, though. So sometimes I'll have gear fear for a specific run. Like, ooh, I haven't played in a week. I don't know if I want to take that gun in this first run. But overall, yeah, that was my remedy to being scared to lose stuff. Was I'm going to lose it at some point anyway. Might as well take it out, right? And you mentioned that you don't really go in the trenches with the developing and the coding and stuff like that. These days, is there a part of you that misses that side too?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, that is my background, right? I've done developing for a long time, and making the features is what I do. This current position is more a natural progression that just came as we keep growing, and someone has to take those decisions, right? Um, so yes, I do it. I do still program a little bit, but not as much as I maybe would like to. But I also know if I start doing all that programming, other stuff is going to be neglected. So
It's
someone has to do it.
it's balancing the, that it's life. You got what you want to
It's
do the
life.
whole time, and
Well,
what
and you
needs to be
wouldn't be
done.
in the
But
position if you weren't good at what you did, because the whole team is made up of people who are really good at their roles. So
and going back to something you said before, when something's a hobby, it's fun. When it's work, it's not. There's also the fact that maybe that you don't have to do it every day keeps it like, all right, I love that side. I wish I could do it more. Whereas if that's what you had to do every single day for Ghosts of Tabor,
Right.
maybe you would go, shit, I wish I could focus on the other stuff a little bit more. I'm too in the trenches, so it's a catch-22 both ways. And one last thing I gotta ask, because it's one of the cool parts of wipes to me, for this next wipe and going forward with all the wipes, is the idea to keep that tradition of pretty much loading up everybody with millions of coins, and they get to buy everything and all the traders are unlocked and all that. Is that going to be a running tradition before every wipe?
I'm not so sure. I know that Scott doesn't like it. And I know statistically, we can see the numbers when we do those events that it's doing that kind of event kills the game really fast. Which is also why when people go, oh, it's so awesome, you get maxed out traders, you get maxed out guns, and then suddenly after a couple days the game is not boring because you have everything. You have no progression anymore, right? You complete the game, people stop playing. We know that for a fact. So we do want to at some point to reintroduce these kind of before wipe kind of events. And I don't know if we're gonna have one for this wipe, but whenever we do get them back again, it might not be, maxed out money or maxed out traders. It might be something when we get some breathing room to develop on less essential things. We might look into making some more custom events
That
instead.
makes sense. We even felt that ourselves as players. We went in, we're like, well,
it was
so
fun
much
for a minute, and then you
For-
realize,
Yeah.
like, yeah,
I
it's-
like to loot.
it was exactly what I thought, though. It's all everyone had
It's a war zone.
sniper rifles.
So it's a minefield out there of everybody maxed out with green lasers and
Yeah.
full armor. And I also think it depends on what type of player you are. Both of us said it. We like to loot. If you're a player that likes to loot and you have everything unlocked, well, that
Why?
defeats the. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For the people that just like to go in and try to be, a lawnmower and go through people, I'm sure they would enjoy it more. But yeah, I'm a loot guy, and if I can buy everything, then there's no point in looting. So I'm with you. It's a nice little treat. It's like dessert, but I'm definitely glad that that's not the whole game, because
I think the new user appreciates it more than the person who's played for, a month or so. Because then, well, assuming that you've been through a wipe or two. But I can see where the new player, because you want to try all these weapons that you feel are out of reach when you first start playing. But I would assume overall, and the numbers obviously prove it, it's not good for longevity.
no, I agree 100%. That takes away part of what makes the game special.
Yeah.
But before we let Jonas go, is there anything else that you wanted to ask the man Fish himself?
No,
I mean, he's got a whole church.
My list had a lot of organically answered things on their own, which I'm always appreciative of, and I can't be more grateful for Jonas to take the time to educate us a little on his side of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it all gears up to that same, enthusiasm we hear from everybody on the team.
It's gamers making games, and
gamers
that's why
making games. Exactly.
and that's why it's so good. So before we let you go, Jonas, is there anything else that you wanted to say? I guess people, if they're listening, they're probably already on the Discord, but maybe plug where they can follow for news and updates and all of that.
Well, sure. We have a lot of social media, right? We do TikTok and Twitter and all that. But if you really want to keep in the loop, it's Discord, right? If the game goes down, that's the first place you're gonna hear about it. If we're doing a patch, first place you're gonna see the patch notes. That's where we have the biggest interaction with the community. You mentioned we have 60,000+ people in there. It's all Discord. That is where everything goes on. That's why you can get your Church of Fish roll. It's all in there.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. Discord is the place to be. You guys are very communicative with the community. Like you said, there's an issue.
Honest too. That's the
Yeah.
other thing I'll point out to the studio is like full open disclosure.
Yep,
with
full transparency.
everything. Yep.
100%. As a consumer, I love that. So yeah, definitely go check out the Ghosts of Tabor Discord if you're not yet. And for the listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, as always, subscribe, rate us 5 stars on whatever podcast platform you listen on, or if that's YouTube, just subscribe, like, comment. Let us know if there's anything else you want us to ask these Combat Waffle Studio team members when we get them on. And other than that, Fish, thank you for taking the time, and stay tuned for the next one, the first of every month. So today's November 1st. The next episode will come out December 1st. So stay tuned.